everyone. Wow, isn't that amazing? What Mary has shared about Game 5. So, my name is Zach. I'm the Deputy GM of PingCap, APAC, and I'm actually really excited to be able to share the stage with all of you, Web3 enthusiasts, innovators, and of course, being able to actually help you with our insights and learnings that we have actually done from all the various leaders, and of course, later on from you during this event, and onto how we can actually use data as a service to help you actually super boost and turbocharge your business. And on the way actually back to Singapore previously, I watched a video, and I thought this was actually pretty much a summation of all the kind of conversations I had with a lot of Web3 leaders and players out there. I'm not sure if anyone has watched the Pixar movie called Soul. So this is actually one of the scenes that actually really struck me very hard. Why I'm actually showing this is, if you actually look at this, right, this little guy called Jerry is searching through a stack of data. And look at it, he's actually searching through manually, slowly, and there's reams and reams of data out there. And this is actually one of the challenges that people are facing today in real life. In fact, a lot of owners, a lot of founders in Web3 projects, you actually see that the data today in actually blockchains and all that are slow. You want to actually be able to then look at how can I actually get this data real quickly? How do I actually then be able to provide real-time insights, real-time data to my clients, to my prospective users, so that they can keep continuing to actually use their services with me? And this is actually one of the new age challenge with the ever-growing size of data locked in actually public blockchains. And this brings us to some of the needs of the hyper-growth Web3 industry that we're actually seeing and hearing. There are 4 of them. The first one is actually the fast-growing data volumes and workloads that we're actually seeing across various public blockchains today. And actually, a quick fun fact, do you know how much data is actually being generated daily? It's actually about 2.5 quintillion bytes, which is equivalent to 2.5 million terabytes of data. And the food for thought for you is how much data are you generating and contributing, and how are you actually leveraging this data? The second part is we talk about the differences between Web3 and, of course, DeFi. How is it actually different from the traditional financial services? And we actually see that there's actually uninterrupted kind of demand. You don't have to actually take rest on Saturday and Sundays, just like actually the stock markets do. And therefore, there is actually a need to constantly scale to the kind of demands as and when the kind of demand actually surges. And of course, for you to actually scale back when the demand wanes. The third part is we actually talk about the need for you guys to actually build stronger latch points to actually attract and retain your customers with value-added services. It could be small, simple features such as allowing you to actually be able to track your wallet differences, being able to actually understand what's the kind of transaction, number of transactions across the NFT, different kind of chains. So these are actually kind of need for actually attractive value-added services that you need to actually then create so that you can actually attract and retain all these customers, whether is it during actually bull runs or even bear markets. And in my point, I feel like even for bear markets, even more so important, you would actually need to do that. The fourth point is talking about the need for us to constantly innovate against time. I think time is our actually biggest enemy. A lot of projects actually get delayed because of the massive stack of technologies that you're actually using behind, trying to actually see that how can I actually mix and match, integrate these technologies. And from a database perspective, it's always one of the key challenges behind because of the fact that you have so much data to consider about the kind of scale you want to actually prepare for. You take a lot of time to actually then build your applications, your DApps. And the question is, can you actually be faster than your competition? If your competition is doing it in months, can you do it in weeks? If they're doing it in weeks, can you do it in days? And this is what we're actually here to actually share with you about. So sharing with you a little bit about PingCap, I've been actually sharing a lot of the challenges. PingCap, we are actually a cloud database. We are a managed service provider. And with that, we have actually got certifications across. As you can see on the screen, we have like SOC 2, ISOs, GDPR. These are actually some of the gold standards of the cloud industry. And importantly, we focus a lot on just one single product, which is our database capability. What we want is to enable Web3 crypto players, C5 players, DeFi players, GameFi players to be able to use the best modern database to help you scale your business in this actually climate itself. And we are very fortunate to actually have our funding from famous VCs across. And last year, we actually closed our Series D round at $300 million at a valuation of $3 billion. So with the likes of Sequoia, GGV, Couture, GIC. So we could not do it without all the trust of our customers. And today, some of the customers you actually see on the page, for example, some of you might be familiar. Earlier, Mary was actually talking about GameFi. We have NetEase. In fact, you know, some of you who will play Street Fighter, Capcom, Shopee, so on and so forth. And in fact, we have actually some of the top largest crypto exchanges and top DeFi projects using our database as a way to actually innovate. And I'll later on go on to actually show you a lot more about 2 cases that we have actually seen. A little bit about our product called Titanium DB or TiDB in short. What we have actually seen in the market is that a lot of the projects are actually using traditional kind of technologies. And this is what is actually holding you back. If you actually think about it in the past, right? Databases, when they were actually first designed, they were actually designed for volume and scale in mind. And that is why when we actually looked at it, this is what was actually inhibiting the kind of innovation that you can actually do. And that's why it actually takes months to actually then develop projects. Today, we have actually redesigned our database from ground up to actually cater for a couple of things. Number one, we want it to be open source. I'm pretty sure all of you here understands what open source means, right? And what we want to do is to enable innovators like yourself to be able to work with technologies freely and then be able to actually use and distribute it as your own to create your own economy. And of course, if you want to, you can always actually work with us and the public hyperscalers to actually use it on the public clouds. The second thing that we actually do it is that we make sure that we can actually handle high scale of volumes of data that's actually streaming in. All of you here are actually digital native companies, projects, and you will actually see a scale and surge of data as you actually go into operations. For those of you who are into operations, you will know what I mean. And last but not least, I think what we actually did in mind was to actually make sure the infrastructure was something that was actually resilient, something that's actually redundant, and something that can actually handle the kind of financial data or privacy data with the utmost security itself. And that's what we actually talked about on the left. We talk about scalable for mission-critical workloads. And this is actually really important, especially when you actually touch on the likes of tokenomics, the likes of actually financial data. And also, what we actually did on top of all this, being scalable, being actually secure, being mission-critical, we allow you to then now peer into your data as it transacts in real time. So this opens up a door of opportunities for you. And this is what we're actually seeing in the Web3 space today, how we're actually enabling innovators to actually change and potentially take the lead forward. So here are actually some of the proven users and outcomes that we have actually seen from the customers that we've actually surveyed who are actually using us today. So these are the top 3 key points that they're actually telling us that we are actually great in terms of how we're actually helping them. Number 1, we talk about real-time data analysis on transactions. And this actually helped them to actually create better customer service and retention because you are able to provide the valuable insights to your customers to catch them to actually stay them and catch them to stay them on your platform. The second part is actually providing the kind of timely insights on internally and externally to your teams and externally to your users or even to your partners. And thirdly, the ability to actually scale on demand when the demand actually peaks and when the demand actually wanes. So this is actually one of the key strengths in terms of what we're actually seeing customers saying about us. I'll go on to actually share 2 business models that I think hopefully you can take away today and see how you can actually innovate together with your project. The first one that we want to feature is what we call data as a service as a core business. Some of you might actually hear it as actually data aggregation or global indexing kind of functions today. KNN3 is actually one of our innovator partner who have actually recently started off with us, building the project. And what they're actually looking to do is to actually build a universal identity-centric user behavioral warehouse. It's a very mouthful, but essentially what they're actually trying to do is they're actually trying to solve the short sight of smart contracts and data across chains or within chains. Basically, for those of you who know, smart contracts today are actually limited in terms of size, in terms of how many blocks you can actually do. And what they want to actually create is to enable hybrid smart contracts so that there can actually be wider adoption across the market with such data flows to actually all these smart contracts on the actual blockchain. And if you actually look at traditional architectures, if you want to actually achieve such a kind of volume, such a kind of architecture, on the left, I would not advise you to actually go and read every single one of them. It's just convoluted. It's just difficult. And this is why using actually TiDB, what we're actually allowing them is to actually start off with a very simple, simplified architecture to do that. We are talking about the ability to then actually start reaching the realms of hundreds and multiple of hundreds of actually terabytes of data, allowing them to actually quickly gather analysis on top of this actually data that's actually streaming in, and then later on pass it off to your users. And that's how a business can actually be formed. So we've actually seen this in customers such as KNN3. We have also seen this as actually multiple kind of wallets such as DBank. The next model that I want to introduce you to is data as a service, as a support to your core business. And this is actually more prevalent, so if you're already a business and you already have your multiple applications and platforms generating data within the company. And this is actually very important because we see that in such cases, these are actually the likes of, even for this actually particular customer, they actually an exchange, and they have actually grown 7 times since the 2 years that they've actually been on with us, and they actually go on to actually trade in daily trade volumes of actually more than billions. What they were actually trying to do with this is very simply trying to actually reconcile wallet differences and transactions globally. And we're actually talking about the kind of performance for more than actually 100,000 of actually QPS or queries per second, and the ability to actually now actually narrow the kind of time frame, the moment when a user transacts on my platform, whether is it being in US, whether is it in Singapore, whether is it in Dubai, immediately in seconds you can get the reconciled view of your wallet. And of course, more importantly, all this being done, you get to actually have a cost saving as well. Because of the simplified architecture, we are talking about lesser engineers, lesser manpower, lesser kind of operational overheads needed to run your entire technology stack. And again, emphasizing on the fact that as they have actually grown, we have seen them actually scaling beyond hundreds and multiple hundreds of actually terabyte, and the performance is actually still going on. And this actually underscores the fact that this is actually an important side of what Web3 and all of you actually are doing. Data is actually the business itself, if I can actually recap, right? And the volume of the business, the value of the business increases as the complexity of your data also increase. And the more so, you have to actually start looking at how can I actually get ways to monetize, how can I get ways to actually then get more meaningful insights into my data so that I can serve my internal and external user more effectively. The second part is, I want to actually recap, is about innovating with actually open source products. I think over here, all of us are actually using quite a fair bit of different technologies out there. One important point I want to actually emphasize on the fact that to remember, when you're actually starting off to actually innovate with open source products, the reason why is you don't want to actually get yourself inhibited, locked in later on when you're actually getting huge volumes of actually users with your vendors knocking on your door and say, hey, come, pay me actually X percentage of your revenue. And this is actually an important thing. And the third thing is, if I've not actually emphasized it already during the sharing, to leverage the power of actually real-time data across to generate the kind of business potential or the business insights that you can actually give, and potentially in exchange for actually more usership, revenue, or even actually community building that you're actually trying to actually build. So with that, I will give an end off and a quick call to action as well. So we are actually located at booth K22. For those of you who have any questions around what we have actually been sharing around data as a service, as a model, let us know. Happy to actually share more with you. My lovely team is there. We have actually swags, but it's running out quickly. So please do come by, and happy to actually share them with you. We have also actually announced startup programs for young projects, or even actually projects that want to actually be able to leverage such technology. Let us know, and we are happy to actually give you more information around that. Also, last but not least, before the buzzer rings, we actually have a lucky draw. If you scan and actually answer 2 questions, we will actually, hopefully can draw you for the lucky draw. Okay. So again, my name is Zach, and I actually thank you so much for your time, and have a great second day of the event. Thank you.